Greetings and welcome to Old Drunken Discography, where old friends and fans come together to BS, argue, occasionally agree, and discuss a musical artist. Today's musical artist is The Who, and we will be talking about them selling out. With me today is the illustrious Tim.
Buenos dias.
And our super special guest joining us for The Who, Heimster. I'm never going to get that right. Right here is where I'm going to insert a clip of Heimster explaining The Who and how they had to re-record some Sell Out because we are re-recording this video now. So let's see if this works out the second time. Yeah, The Who Sell Out. What you guys want to say about it? You want me to go first again?
Well, okay, so yeah, the idea behind the last album was to get everybody some publishing rights.
Yep.
And then they got an even bigger idea. And so this album is a tribute to the offshore pirate radios at the time. In America, people like to go back when I was your age, we only had 3 channels. But if those people were British, they only had 1 channel. And you can call it what you want, but the BBC is state-run media.
That's right.
So if the government doesn't want you to see it,
you ain't seeing it.
You're not seeing it. So especially in the early days of rock and roll, a lot of the cool kids were listening to the pirate radio that were outside of the UK laws. And that's where they got their music. And
national waters, baby.
That's right.
Yeah. And so they did finally get shut down. And the Beatles had introduced the idea of a concept record with a little album called Sgt. Pepper's. And Pete took that idea and went, well, we're gonna pay some homage to the pirate radio stations. So with this album, you get a bunch of really poppy songs. It's also 67, so they're really psychedelic. And you get some great commercials, like you're listening to a radio program. I'll let Jason go through the track by track here. I think he's got pretty good notes for it. But it just starts off with some sound effects, counting down the days into this super psychedelic song, Harmonia, City in the Sky. I'm probably going to say this a couple times, but this would be one of my picks for a Roger Daltrey highlight. Like, he sounds amazing on this song.
It's not him singing. Sorry.
It's not even him.
Sorry. It's Speedy Keen.
Well, I think they're
both singing,
sharing vocals. Yeah. So maybe I'm hearing Speedy Keen there, but
according to Townsend, in that this film, which was a promotional film for the re-release, which came out maybe a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, he says, "What you're hearing there is Speedy Keen."
Okay. Well, there you go. Learning stuff every day.
Yeah.
You get the fabulous track Heinz Baked Beans. You'll see from the cover they're all kind of advertising something that ties into one of the songs.
Not paid advertising, mind you.
Yeah. Man, I love this record. This is one of my favorite records, kind of by anybody ever. Marianne with the Shaky Hands. It's a great song. Odorono, you think is this great song, and then it takes a turn, and it's a deodorant commercial. It's pretty funny. Tattoo's a cover. The Stones did it. Wayne Fontana did it. The Who are going to do it now. And it's a great song. Fun little story. Our Love is one of my favorite songs on here. I Could See for Miles is the hit. It's also a strong contender for the best Who song ever, maybe. I don't know. Stick around for that. I Can't Reach You is great. Silas Stingy is great. Medak is a great little, Pimple Cream commercial. There's also little things in between the songs, like, Radio London reminds you to go to the church of your choice.
Yeah.
And, Loon at the Bag of Nails. And a lot of these commercials, they're just trying to get free stuff. If you get into the expanded editions, there's a regular expanded edition, there's a super deluxe edition. The ideas are expanded a lot there. They're trying to get Jaguar cars. They're trying to get drums. They're trying to get strings. Trying to get whatever they can. Coca-Cola, yeah. And yeah, just as a concept, the idea of these commercials and these pop songs intermingling and just living within the same space. It almost sounds like it wouldn't work, but the Who they're about to hit their peak, I think. And it really translates well on this album. I think that this is probably the most unbridled you're going to get Keith Moon in this discography. Just insane drums throughout these entire sessions. And there's a whole bunch of songs that didn't make the album proper in the bonus tracks and stuff that are all top song contenders. There's so much good stuff here.
That's something else I didn't think about. You think about it, like, nowadays, and for years, it's been the norm to, like, not just bands, but actors, everybody to, like, advertise in the hopes of getting free stuff. But, like, the Who kind of did it first.
And they kind of called it out for what it was by calling the album Sell Out.
Oh yeah, it's total tongue in cheek, like, it's genius.
It is. That's a good word for it. It's a genius album. The concept is not too esoteric, like we're gonna get into a couple of the later albums. It's pretty straightforward. None of the songs have to, like, match each other thematically. So you get all kinds of variety. And I think Pete's really coming into his own as a songwriter. I think everybody else, their songwriting contributions are really good at this point. I just can't say enough good things about this album.
It's a bridge album, if you think about it, right? You've got these the prior albums, which are in some ways true to their moniker of maximum R&B. Mm-hmm. They are putting forth their best versions of American black music, of Chicago sound in some ways, right?
And Motown and Stats, and yeah.
And here they are drifting off into the psychedelic ether. With the first song, you've got this very bizarre sound of this Speedy Keen song, which is, in a way, it's just kind of like an oddity on the album. And Townsend actually says, when I first heard the lyric "Armenia, City in the Sky," he said, I thought he was saying, "I'm an ear sitting in the sky," which actually works really well too, if you think about it.
Yeah.
There's and that also kind of works well with the way I conceptualize it as a bridge into their mystical, not just psychedelic, but there's a mystical feel and sound to this. There's a lilt to all of the songs on this album. It kind of just feels like they're all kind of floating a few feet above ground. Albeit the fact that the mock advertisements ground you once again. They bring you back down. But with each subsequent song, you're brought back into this very heady place. They're very lovely, lovely songs. They're very, in some ways, you've got Moon doing things that are very atypical for Moon. If you look at Tattoo, which is a Townsend written song, by the way. It's not a cover. You have Moon just touching on the ride. It goes tin 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 tin, me and my and the way that Daltrey, in a sense, kind of does. He's doing this falsetto. He's giving you an idea. He's giving you an echo of what Tommy's going to sound like too with that. He's reaching with his voice to a register that's somewhat unnatural for him, and unnatural for him as a tough bloke. He's the sheet metal worker. He's the tough guy in juxtaposition to Townsend's artsy fartsy, and yet here he is reaching to the highest levels of his vocal register, crooning this song out. There's some really interesting stuff going on, both sonically, musically, and conceptually in the album. But also back to their, we are second-rate guys, and not everything goes well for us. There's those themes of, that we're kind of struggling. We're not the best-looking guys. Perhaps we're certainly not the Beatles, and we're not the Beach Boys, and we're not singing about girls and everything going perfect with the girls. There's something melancholy in that. There's actually a song out in the re-release deluxe version of the album, which is called Melancholia, which in a lot of ways sums it up in a way, right?
I mean,
that's a great song. That's a great song.
It is.
Even Our Love is not a typical.
Absolutely. It's reaching for something, and yet very beautiful. What he ends up with is I don't know. I don't exactly know the words to describe it, but there's something about the entire album that feels like it is reaching towards something. Even in title, I Can't Reach You. I Can See for Miles. Now, obviously, I Can't See for Miles is the standout single on the album, with the B-side of Marianne with the Shaky Hand. They knew which songs were really the best, and they picked them out of there as the single. But I Can See for Miles was Townsend's attempt to make up a lot of the money that they had lost between shady goings on with their management and destroyed equipment. They were in the red, and so when it didn't chart as well as he had intended it, he was crestfallen. And it's kind of amazing, knowing what comes after this album, that he reached for it again, and he did it. He took us into the stratosphere with the next album.
Well, and it's interesting you say that too, because, this album really, he's reaching for something, but then that reaching for something becomes not only a central theme to the next album, but to the project that follows that, and then even the one that follows that, and it just follows him throughout, where he's reaching for this. It's almost a nirvana that is reached between band and audience, and you're a higher power.
You are absolutely. I think you're on the money with that one. Absolutely. And again, we see this conceptual thing. We hear harbingers of Tommy in Rael parts 1 and 2, and in the extended release, the extended releases that we received in the 90s and in the 2000s, we hear even more explorations of what was going on in the studio, which birthed Tommy. We have Glow Girl, which has the refrain of it's a girl, Mrs. Walker. It's a girl. It's about this a girl that's born on a crashing plane. So this messianic image. There's really interesting stuff. But Rael thematically is also about some sort of nirvana place. Some sort of City in the Sky, going back to the first song, Ra'el is also a city in the sky in a way that it's got the last four letters of Israel in it. And Townsend actually visited Israel in the days prior to the Six-Day War. He traveled there with his wife Karen in 1967. So we sort of start to get a notion that Townsend is weaving spiritual material and themes into his work, which then become realized in later albums.
So, yeah, I had never heard this record prior to this review. So this was, I guess my dad didn't have this one. I don't know, but the only song I knew was "See for Miles." So when I went into this record, this was an insane album.
Yeah.
This is 1967. This is the summer of love, right? I mean, there was a lot of bands that put out a lot. The Rolling Stones.
A lot of good music came out that year.
Yeah, but there was a lot of bad music. I mean, the Rolling Stones was doing what? That Button, Satanic. What year was that?
I think that was a little later even. That was like 68, 69.
Yeah. So they come out with this opening track, right? And it's this psychedelic, fits right into the summer of love. You got the creepy countdown with the pirate radio, Monday, Tuesday. Keith does some crazy shit, but then it cuts into Heinz Baked Beans, which is like a short, goofy song. It's an advertisement. It's so freaking good. And then it like goes into this sugary, poppy masterpiece that is Marianne with the Shaky Hand. When I made it through Marianne, I was like, I've got to buy this vinyl, because that was one of those three tracks in a row, from like some psychedelic 60s stuff to a jingle commercial for a corporation to this pop masterpiece. It's some of the best music I'd heard in a long freaking time. Then they spend 2 minutes and 34 seconds of precious album time to essentially deliver a commercial for a deodorant. I mean, that's just genius.
In a super poppy song too.
It's the song itself stands on its own, and then at the end it just turns into a deodorant commercial. It's freaking genius. Tattoo. Again, like the story doesn't, like they don't. It's left open ended. But some of the lyrics, like my dad beat me because mine said mother, but my mother naturally liked it and beat my brother because his tattoo was of a lady in the nude. And my mother thought that was extremely rude. That's some good lyrics. Our Love Was super interesting. It sounds like a 60s pop song, but those lyrics, I don't think anybody was singing from that perspective or that. It's almost like nowadays, any pop punk band wish they'd wrote that song. Like, I Can See for Miles. I remember hearing this when I was a kid. It was the first song that I remember actually paying attention to what the drummer was doing, because he does some really crazy stuff in this song.
Well, and even beyond that, Keith Moon really brought the drummer out from the back of the stage. Before Keith Moon, like, you had Krupa, you had Buddy Rich, but certainly nobody in rock and roll.
Right.
That had the personality to be the drummer and out in front, cracking jokes, entertaining the entire room.
That's true.
Yeah, he was a lyrical drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very musical. Very musical. It's almost orchestral the way he attacks those things.
Very much so. Very much so. He and Entwistle building this bottom end to what Townsend was doing harmonically on top of it. At moments, it literally sounds like an orchestra. I mean, I know that Hendrix managed to do the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. They were both playing with this really interesting thing, particularly in their live performances.
Sure.
You really cranked it up, and you get something which is much greater than the sound of just these guys on stage. There's something, that just sort of like reaches into your brain almost.
I mean, they're essentially a three-piece with a singer. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
it's
they're a
just guitar,
three-piece
bass,
with
drum.
three singers.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but
The three singers, right? No, it's true. It's true. I Can See for Miles had a tremendous amount of production going on. They worked on it in L.A. They did some final touch-up in Memphis on it. It was meant to be the song that would save them financially. Yeah, we know the history of it, but it is it's such a great sound. I think, Tim, as you mentioned, it still gets airplay. It's one of those songs that just sounds great on the radio.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know what was wrong with people in 1967, but I would have went out and bought this record if I would have heard that song. That's still one of my favorite Who songs. I Can't Reach You. It's fun. You know, John does these like little bass flourishes throughout it. Medic, again, freaking genius. Relax is great. Silas Stingy, that's another John goofy storytelling type songs. But like we said in the other video that is lost to time. It's kind of a slimy song. Like it feels dirty. It feels, you know,
right. Like, who is this guy?
Yeah, like,
you know, it's like a dirty children's book. You know, it almost feels like you can picture these. You know, it's like Jethro Tull's Aqualung come to life. It's like this character of some sort, right? You know.
Well, and so thematically, it almost it's very related to something like Happy Jack in that way as well.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, well, you know, you've got this character set up, and you're not sure if you like him or not, and then you're not sure if you should like him or not.
Right? Is he a sympathetic character or not?
Yeah.
I could get that. I could see that.
You know, what's also occurring to me as I sort of play the songs in my head and the sound of it is that it is not unlike Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Pink Floyd.
Sure.
Similar things are happening. I mean, Piper in a way is more adventurous in some ways. In its, you know, just sort of exploration of sounds and so forth, but there's also something very characteristically British about both albums too.
Sure. Well, and I think maybe the difference there, and I'm just spitballing this, just based off what you just brought up, but I think maybe the difference there would be that Townsend was a little more reluctant to indulge in the psychedelics than, say, a Syd Barrett.
Maybe. Or at least not at the same volume.
Sure. Without the same gusto.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah.
I love the fact that the album closes with a track that, like, he had wrote, like, this long, like, you know, another quick one almost, essentially. Yeah. And the record label was like, no, you need another single, chop it down. And, you know, the fact that it's the closing track on the Whoo Sell Out. It's meta reference. It's so good. This album is genius.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a wonderful album, and it plays well. It plays well in the car too. The harmonies are beautiful.
Yeah, really good driving record.
Yeah.
We gotta give a shout out to Petra Hayden, our girl from That Dog.
Thank you.
Yeah, check out that episode.
I gotta hear that. I gotta hear her do this.
It's so good. It's all a cappella. She does the instruments and everything.
You know, I'll shoot you guys a link to a review that I wrote when it first came out off of my a blog that I kept for a while. It is a real achievement in a lot of ways. She just overtracks her own voice, doing all the instruments and all the vocals, and came to it really not knowing anything about the album. It was handed to her as a challenge. Go ahead and do this. Yeah. And the first song that she did, I think, was Armenia City in the Sky. So it's
because when I listened to her version of this album, which I've listened to it a few times now since I discovered it existed.
Yeah.
I always got the impression that it was a labor of love, and she was able to do this because she had listened to this album 10 billion times and knew every little drum lick and bass, chord that worked with this vocal chord, and because she does such a good job just creating the essence of the songs.
And she did a live version of it with her sisters at the Ford Amphitheater here in Los Angeles. And I should have gone. Like I kick myself to this day.
Yeah, I think I should have.
Because she uses her sisters to do the backing instrumental pieces and so forth.
Oh man!
We started. I can't believe I didn't go.
And there's no footage or anything of that?
I have no idea. A buddy that I worked with actually went to high school with her, and I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I know all three of them."
Oh yeah.
And one of his sisters is married to Jack Black, I think.
Yeah. They're all kind of tied, like Giovanni Risby and Beck and that dog. Like they're all
interesting,
connected. We're big fans of Petra Hayden and that dog on this show.
I love it.
Yeah.
Even like my mom watched our episode and she's like, I never heard of this band, and she went and checked them out. She's like, oh my god, they're amazing. I'm like, I know, but nobody has heard of that dog.
Yeah, no, they were. That was a pleasant surprise for me, for sure.
They're great. I love the Haydens.
I'm learning things.
And that's why we're here.
To teach you. The more you know.
Right? Now go sell out.
Nazdrovi.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Who Sell Out, where would you rank it? For me,
it's utter rubbish. It's rubbish.
It's rubbish. I love your British accent. Oh, my kid's gonna love this episode.
I mean, yeah, this is a strong contender for a desert island album for me. Yeah. So I'm gonna place this above a quick one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you.
Yeah, I'm acting like this is all a surprise. Oh my god, I had no idea you guys were going to do that. Despite us filming all of this and not recording it. Nothing but professionalism on Old Drunken Discography.
It's in the name.
It's in the name.
I listened to the deluxe re-release on a road trip from Bakersfield. No, excuse me, from Modesto back to LA. It's hours worth of material, and it totally delivers. And there are all these fascinating other things in there. There are these ads that Townsend did for the Air Force and car dealerships and all kinds of stuff. Great little pieces in there.
I love that shit. There's a punk ska band called Less Than Jake. And they put out an EP. It's just called the TV EP. And the whole thing is just jingles and TV theme shows. So you listen to it, and it's like, you could go from like the Love and Marriage, from Married with Children, to like the Oscar Mayer Wiener commercial, to like the Toys R Us kid commercial.
What is this called? I'm going to write this down.
Less Than Jake. And it's called the TV EP. But it's like super fast, like, they got horns. It's like ska, punk.
Cool.
But it's a fun little record.
Yeah.
But after hearing the Sell Out, like...
Who did it first?
Does it matter? No, really, at a certain point...
It doesn't matter, no. But one of the themes I think we have on this program, this channel, whatever you want to call it, is... artistic integrity and the watering down of ideas. Because so many bands out there, I don't know if they're afraid to like lose the money or the fans or what, but they play it very safe and they end up just writing the same song over and over again.
Well, that's my notes for my Silas Stingy notes. It says, this one has class war undertones, which makes it even better. Why don't bands take chances like this anymore? Like, you couldn't imagine a band putting out a Silas Stingy nowadays. Like
No.
not a mainstream, band. I don't know. There's something about this record that
It's very much of its time, but it's also very timeless.
it still holds up. I mean, it's
Yeah.
to 2024. This album still holds up to this day.
Well, because it appears to be telling some sort of story, even though your mind does the work of putting it all together. It does seem to be telling you about something, whether it's about the band itself or all of these characters that arise in the course of it. It would make a great animated piece, wouldn't it?
Ooh, it
I'd
would
watch it.
actually, yeah. Yeah.
It really would.
That's what I like about it is like there's a lot of like self-referential meta.
Yeah.
There's like hidden shots at like rock and roll and advertising and
Right. And the business, right?
the business.
Mhm.
But then you have all these like other undertones like Mary Hand and the Shaky Hand. Like there's so much to this record. Like I spent an entire day on this. By the time I was over, I was like, I gotta order this from Amazon. I need this vinyl.
Yeah.
I need this record.
Well, they were very bold in their exploration of sex and adolescent themes,
Mm-hmm.
and sexual frustration. There's something stinky and boyish about the whole thing.
We're doing this series right now called the Album of the Decade, and we're currently doing the 90s, where we're going through each year. We're picking our 10 favorite records, we're ranking them, we're going to throw them in a big meat grinder and vote on it. But we plan on doing all the decades. Now when we get to the 60s, I'm kind of worried about 1967 in my top 30.
67 is going to be a tough year.
That's going to be a tough year to pick 3 albums.
Important year.
Yeah, for sure.
This one's up there now, though. Yeah, we're all tied right now, so
Groovy.
that's to be expected. That's to be expected. We'll see where Tommy's
Thomas.
next, right? Yeah, that's gonna be a big one. So stick around for that. There's a link in the playlist down below, so you can check out all our videos in a row. That's all I got. Anybody else got anything to add? Don't sell out.
Yeah, don't sell out. Or do, whatever.
Or do.
Yeah,
Make
get
that
that
money.
get that fake bean money.
It's smooth sailing with the highly successful sound of wonderful Radio London.
I can see